Turkey has a new bridge and it's big. We mean really big.
The world's longest suspension bridge.
Longest suspension bridge the world has ever seen.
suspension bridge lies over the Dardanelle Straits,
linking Turkey's east and west.
It's the longest suspension bridge in the world, spanning 4.6 kilometres across the Dardanelle Strait. If you put it in London, it would dominate the skyline and rise higher than the Shard, the tallest building in Western Europe. This remarkable feat of engineering quite literally connects Europe to Asia and crosses one of the most important and busiest trade routes in the world. But constructing it wasn't easy, and the $2.8 billion mega project had to withstand earthquakes, storms, and some politics. This is how the world's longest suspension bridge was built. On the 18th of March 2022, Turkey's President Erdogan opened the 1915 Çanakkale Bridge. It finished 18 months ahead of schedule, but had been a long time coming. Now, the Dardanelle Strait's always been a pretty critical piece of Turkey's geography. It's a narrow stretch of water that averages just 4 kilometres wide, and it's vital in connecting the Mediterranean to the Black Sea, giving some of the most resource-rich countries access to the outside world. This strait, along with the Bosphorus, also represents the effective border between Europe and Asia, and before the Çanakkale was built, there were only 3 bridges and 2 tunnels linking the continents at this point, all located in Istanbul. As you might imagine, that caused plenty of congestion, and a crossing over the Dardanelles to solve the problem was first pitched way back in 1989. Famed bridge designer William Brown was even commissioned to design a structure following the success of his second Bosphorus bridge in Istanbul in 1988. But the plans stalled. In 1995, the project was declared unfeasible, and it was more than 2 decades before another idea was put forward. This time around, the funds were secured and engineering technology had progressed by 20 years. It was time to make history. Given the size of some ships using the strait, engineers opted for a suspension bridge design.
Suspension bridge technology is more expensive than cable-stayed bridge technology, but the biggest cable-stayed bridge in the world has a span of around a little bit more than half of Çanakkale, and you can't go much bigger than that for this type of span, which you have on Çanakkale due to the shipping. Then you end up with a suspension bridge.
These are huge. I mean, the vessels sailing through the Strait of Çanakkale are among the biggest vessels in the world.
2 enormous 318-metre high towers were planned on either end of the strait, supporting the 2-kilometre main span between them, the longest of its kind in the world. A pair of 59,000-ton caissons were submerged some 40 metres below the surface, one on the European side and one on the Asian side of the water. They would act as the tower's waterproof foundations. Additional steel platforms were then attached so the towers could be mounted above sea level.
There's a number of high environmental and accidental loads that we are considering. The wind load, we are concerned for aerodynamic stability, and we are of course concerned with earthquake. We are concerned with the ship impact loads, but also a very special consideration for such a bridge here is to be able to handle the traffic loads. But of course wind is the first and primary concern for such a long suspension bridge is aerodynamic stability.
The Turkish government wanted the bridge to be opened in time for the country's centennial in 2023, and that put a strict deadline on every element of construction.
The prefabrication requirement was primarily coming out of a request for fast construction time. We have had a very tight construction schedule for this bridge being one of the challenges, so actually today it's not even 5 years since we started on this project.
Once the towers were finished, the cables between them were then strung strand by strand in a process that took more than 162,000 kilometres worth of wire. That's enough to loop around the globe 4 times. The main deck was then suspended from the cables an incredible 72 metres clear of the water. The strait is notorious for strong winds and large annual storms, so the deck was built with a twin-box girder structure with a 9-metre gap in between. That helps wind to pass through the bridge more easily and improves its stability.
So you have what we call a twin box. We split the box in 2. We have a gap in the middle, and then they're transversely connected with cross beams. That works much better and gives much better aerodynamic stability.
Now complete, some 45,000 vehicles are expected to cross the bridge every day. It's transformed a ferry journey that at its worst could take upwards of 5 hours to a mere 6-minute drive. And despite its $2.8 billion cost, the crossing's projected to add $5.7 billion to the economy. It's actually all part of a wider infrastructure blitz that President Erdogan has spearheaded across the nation, including a new airport in Istanbul, rail and road tunnels beneath the Bosphorus, and most ambitiously of all, a proposed $15 billion canal in Istanbul that would effectively turn the city into an island.
Canal Istanbul is a 45-kilometre waterway running parallel to the Bosphorus Strait, connecting the Black Sea to the Mediterranean. But many say the multi-billion-dollar project is far too costly given Turkey's economic struggles.
It's fair to say Erdogan's had his share of criticism for these infrastructure plans. Opposition leaders call the mega projects nothing but distractions ahead of the country's 2023 election.
We are against it because it threatens Istanbul completely. Its water, its nature, its security and earthquake safety. It threatens life in this city.
As if its record-breaking engineering weren't enough, there's actually more to the 1915 Çanakkale Bridge than ridiculous amounts of steel and a big span. Firstly, the whole project is wrapped up in national symbolism. Painted in the colours of the Turkish flag, its 2,023-metre midspan is an allusion to the Turkish Republic's 100th anniversary in 2023, and the name of the bridge refers to a World War I battle fought on this very site. But it's the contrast with war that's perhaps its most impressive trait. The bridge was assembled by an international team from all corners of the globe. Cranes were shipped from Australia, designs were drawn up in Denmark, and finance came from South Korea, all to build a bridge in Turkey that connects Asia and Europe. 100 years ago, many of these countries were at war with each other, fighting on the very shores that the bridge is now built on. The 1915 Battle of Gallipoli, which the bridge commemorates, is one seared into the histories of both Turkey and Australia. The world's new longest suspension bridge is a testament not just to engineering, but to what can be accomplished when nations combine their talents. At a time of such uncertainty and conflict, this structure reminds us not just of the power of construction, but of what we can achieve on this planet when we work together. If you enjoyed this video and you want to get more from the definitive video channel for construction, make sure you're subscribed to the B1M.